It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Niccolo Machiavelli. From the day you were born, you were fed illusions dressed as virtues. You were told to be kind, to be loyal, to be available. You were told that sacrifice makes you noble, and that availability makes you loved. But Machiavelli saw the truth centuries ago. Availability doesn't make you loved, it makes you weak, and weakness is always punished. Think about it. How many hours have you wasted explaining yourself to people who didn't care? How many times have you rushed to prove loyalty only to be discarded the moment you stop being useful? That's the trap. That's the invisible cage. And the more you bend, the more they break you. Machiavelli would tell you this: stop scattering your focus like cheap coins in the street. Power demands concentration. A man who divides his energy among everyone around him is a man destined to lose. The truth is harsh, but it's liberating. In a world full of distractions, manipulation, and empty promises, the only strategy that works is to focus solely on yourself, not out of arrogance, not out of cruelty, but because no one else is coming to save you. The first illusion, loyalty. Let's start with the first illusion, loyalty. They say, "I'll always be here for you." But pay attention. That loyalty vanishes the moment your goals stop serving their comfort. What they call friendship is often dependency in disguise. They don't need to chain you to control you. They just need to convince you they care. And when your priorities change, when you start pursuing something bigger, notice how quickly they withdraw. Their loyalty was never loyalty. It was leverage. Think of the countless times you silenced your ambition because you didn't want to upset someone close to you. Think of how often you hesitated to grow simply because your success might make someone else feel small. That isn't loyalty, that is slavery, dressed in sentimental language. Machiavelli warned that enemies aren't always the ones who openly attack you. Sometimes they are the closest to you. They drain your time, your energy, your attention, while smiling in your face. And when you finally refuse, they call it betrayal. Understand this. Your silence is not cruelty. Your withdrawal is not selfishness. It is precision, strategy, and without it, you will never rise. Kill the old identity. Now, the second illusion, your attachment to the past. You are not who you were 5 years ago. You are not even who you were last year. Yet you keep dragging that outdated version of yourself into the present. You cling to the nice guy, the helper, the apologizer. And what does it earn you? Predictability, and predictable men are forgettable men. If you want transformation, you must kill the old self. Burn the script that others have written for you. Reinvent so violently that even your enemies no longer recognize you. Machiavelli didn't sit around waiting for the world to recognize his worth. He engineered systems that forced people to adapt to him. He understood that reinvention is not vanity, it's survival. So when they ask what happened to the old you, answer with this: he died when I realized nobody cared unless I was useful. That isn't arrogance. That's clarity. Emotional detachment, the deadliest weapon. Most people are puppets pulled by their emotions. Anger makes them reckless. Desire makes them blind. Fear makes them paralyzed. And because of this, they are easy prey. If someone can predict your reaction, they own you. If someone can trigger your emotions, they can control you. Machiavelli wrote that a wise ruler should appear merciful, faithful, humane, and sincere, but inwardly be capable of the opposite when necessary. Why? Because the world rewards appearances, not truth. Emotional detachment is your shield. It doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you choose which emotions to wield and which to discard. When others lash out, you stay calm. When others beg for validation, you remain unmoved. When others try to bait you into drama, you refuse to flinch. The man who doesn't react terrifies those who rely on chaos. The man who stays calm under attack becomes untouchable. That's not emptiness, that's evolution. Environment, your silent enemy. Now, let's talk about the battlefield you ignore. Your environment. You think your thoughts are private, that your mindset belongs only to you, but your environment programs you more than you realize. The room you sleep in, the clutter on your desk, the voices you tolerate, the noise from your phone, all of it shapes you. Your so-called comfort zone, it's a trap designed to keep you soft. You scroll, you drown in noise, you waste hours surrounded by mediocrity, and you call it normal. But Machiavelli understood the strength of a ruler isn't just his will, it's what he allows to surround him. Look around your life. Every object, every person, every sound is either sharpening you or sabotaging you. There is no neutral. If your environment is cluttered, so is your mind. If your circle is weak, so is your future. Until you rewire your environment, you will keep sabotaging yourself. So cut ruthlessly, remove the noise, strip away the weak, replace chaos with silence. Engineer your world until it bends to your will. Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times. Niccolo Machiavelli. You've torn through illusions already, loyalty, identity, emotion, environment, but now comes the most merciless enemy of all, time. Time is not neutral. It is not your friend. It is not a resource you can spend endlessly like air in your lungs. Time is the silent executioner, and every second you waste is another cut of the blade. Most people live as though the clock is generous, as though there will always be more hours tomorrow, next week, next year. They tell themselves they'll start later, that they're still young, that there's plenty of time. But Machiavelli saw the world for what it is. The men who rise, the men who dominate, are not the ones with more opportunities. They are the ones who weaponize their hours, while the rest drift into nothingness. The silent executioner. Every second you waste is a betrayal. Not to your family, not to your friends, to yourself. You believe you'll have more time later. You convince yourself that because you're in your 20s or 30s, the clock will wait. But time doesn't wait. It doesn't care. Time is patient only in the sense that it will wait for you to squander yourself before cutting you down. Look around. How many men have thrown their youth into triviality, thinking they'll build something one day? And when that day comes, they discover that the window has closed, that their strength, their sharpness, their edge is gone. You weren't born with influence, wealth, or power. You were only given time. That's the only currency you had at birth, and the only true measure of what you'll become. The powerful invest it, the weak waste it. That's the only real difference between the rulers and the forgotten. Discipline is not addition, it's subtraction. Here's the lie you've been sold, that discipline means doing more. More tasks, more hustle, more grind. That's not discipline, that's noise. Discipline is subtraction. Cutting away the useless until only the essential remains. You don't need more hours in the day. You need fewer leaks in your schedule. Every unnecessary conversation, every meaningless scroll, every mindless distraction. It's all theft. Theft of your future, theft of your empire. Want to wake up earlier? Cut the chaos at night? Want to build a skill? Cut the dopamine traps? Want to command yourself? Cut the excuses. Machiavelli taught that a prince must guard his state like a fortress. Guard your hours with the same ferocity, because if you aren't in control of your time, you aren't in control of your life. And if you aren't in control of your life, someone else is. The trap of helping. Now, let's expose another thief of time. Helping everyone. You've been taught that sacrifice makes you noble. That being available to everyone proves your worth. That dropping everything for others is a virtue. But in power psychology, the man who is always available becomes invisible. The truth is brutal. The more you help, the less you are respected. Why? Because generosity without intention breeds entitlement, not gratitude. They don't see your help as noble, they see it as owed. Machiavelli warned that rulers must be careful with favors because those who receive them rarely become more loyal. Instead, they grow entitled, expecting more. And when you stop, they turn on you. Think about it. How many times have you overextended for someone only to have them vanish when you needed something in return? How many hours have you poured into solving other people's chaos while your own empire remained stagnant? That isn't loyalty, that's dependency in disguise. And the man who falls into this trap will never rise. Scarcity creates value. Understand this. Your time must feel expensive. Your attention must feel rare. Your energy must feel earned. The man who is everywhere, helping everyone, solving every problem, has no value. He becomes wallpaper, useful but unnoticed. But the man who chooses carefully where he invests himself becomes powerful. This is not cruelty. This is economics. Scarcity creates value. If you want respect, if you want presence, stop scattering yourself. Start rationing your availability like a king rationing gold. Appear rarely, help selectively, speak sparingly. That is how value is built, the silent force. Most people think power is loud. They think it's in speeches, in endless words, in proving themselves over and over. But real power doesn't announce itself. Real power doesn't need to explain. True presence is silent. You've felt it before. The man who enters a room and suddenly the atmosphere shifts. He doesn't smile excessively. He doesn't rush to fill the air with chatter. He doesn't try to prove. He simply exists, grounded, unreadable, untouchable. That isn't charisma. That is control. Machiavelli warned that words reveal too much. Every word risks exposing your fears, your weaknesses, your plans. But silence forces others to guess. And in their guessing, you gain power. The average man fears being misunderstood. The powerful man welcomes it. Because mystery is leverage. Unreadability is protection. Silence is dominance. Stop performing for approval. Stop explaining. Stop apologizing. Presence isn't built with noise. It's built with gravity. Closing of Part 2. By now you see the truth. Time is the blade cutting at your life. Discipline is subtraction, not addition. Helping too much destroys you. Scarcity builds value. And silence, not noise, creates dominance. But there is still one more principle, the most controversial, the most offensive to everything society teaches: ruthless self-interest. Putting yourself first without apology. Walking away without guilt. Living as if your goals, your empire, your survival are all that matter. Because they are. And in Part 3, we go deeper into this law of cold clarity. Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. Niccolò Machiavelli. So far, we've shattered illusions of loyalty, exposed the tyranny of time, and uncovered the silent dominance of scarcity and presence. But now, we arrive at the principle that offends society more than any other: ruthless self-interest. You've been told your entire life that self-interest is selfish, that putting yourself first makes you cruel, that ignoring the chaos of others makes you cold. But Machiavelli and every powerful figure who ever built an empire knew the opposite. If you do not put yourself first, you will be consumed. This is not a suggestion, it is a law ignored only by the weak. The lie of selflessness. From childhood, you were programmed to believe that selflessness is virtue, that the good man is the one who sacrifices for others, that to be respected, you must be useful. But here's the truth. Usefulness does not earn respect. It breeds dependency. Think carefully. When you endlessly give, when you drop everything for others, do they respect you or do they expect you? When you finally stop, do they thank you or accuse you of betrayal? Generosity without limits doesn't lead to love. It leads to invisibility. Machiavelli would tell you this: people are not loyal to your sacrifices. They are loyal to their own needs. And as long as your usefulness feeds those needs, they will keep you around. But the moment it doesn't, you are discarded. That's not evil. That's reality. So stop believing that martyrdom will make you remembered. It won't. It will make you forgotten. What self-interest really is. Let's be clear, ruthless self-interest doesn't mean crushing others for sport. It doesn't mean stepping on anyone you can. It means refusing to destroy yourself for people who would never do the same for you. It means protecting your time, your health, your energy, your discipline, and your future, even if it offends others. You've been brainwashed to feel guilty for putting yourself first, but guilt is the leash that keeps you compliant. That guilt doesn't serve you, it serves them. The world will always call you selfish when you stop making yourself useful. Good, that's the sign you're finally stepping into power. Scarcity is power. Self-interest isn't just about saying yes to yourself, it's about saying no to them. And every no you deliver increases your value. The more available you are, the less you're respected. The more scarce you are, the more others adjust to you. Machiavelli knew this well. A ruler's strength came not from pleasing everyone, but from keeping his presence rare and his attention expensive. The same is true today. Your time must feel like gold. Your energy must feel like a privilege. Your presence must feel like a rare event. That is how you stop being a background character in other people's lives and become the center of your own. Offending the world. Here's the paradox. When you finally put yourself first, you will offend everyone who relied on you putting yourself last. Friends who loved your availability will resent your distance. Family who thrived on your compliance will call you cold. Lovers who depended on your constant attention will call you selfish. Let them. Their anger is not your burden. Their disappointment is not your problem. Their comfort was never your responsibility. Machiavelli said it bluntly. The man who tries to be good to everyone inevitably comes to grief. Translation: if you try to please all, you will be destroyed by those who exploit goodness. So stop apologizing. Stop begging for understanding. Stop needing approval. The world does not respect those who bend. It only respects those who stand. Choosing yourself without guilt. The weak man says yes out of fear. The powerful man says no out of clarity. Self-interest means having the discipline to disappoint others in order to protect your own mission. It means saying no without guilt. It means walking away without apology. It means accepting discomfort now in exchange for power later. Think of the man who isolates himself to train while others party. Years later, he emerges unrecognizable, sharper, wealthier, more dangerous. While they chased comfort, he embraced discomfort, and now he dominates. That's not arrogance. That's what happens when you put yourself first. Beyond being liked, most men waste their lives trying to be liked. They smile too much, explain too much, give too much, all in the desperate hope that people will approve. But approval is quicksand. The more you chase it, the deeper you sink. Machiavelli knew it was better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Why? Because love is conditional, but respect built on strength is durable. So ask yourself, do you want to be liked temporarily or respected permanently? Do you want to be soft in their eyes or unshakable in their presence? The choice determines your destiny. The shift to weaponized self-interest. When you finally embrace ruthless self-interest, you stop reacting, you stop chasing, you stop performing. You become a weapon, not a weapon of destruction, but of focus. A man who no longer breaks under emotional manipulation, a man who no longer wastes hours explaining, a man who no longer begs to be seen because his presence forces recognition. This is the point where you stop holding power occasionally and start living as power itself. Closing of Part 3. By now, the illusions of loyalty, time, and sacrifice have shattered. You see clearly that self-interest is not selfishness, it's survival. That guilt is not morality, it's control. That putting yourself first is not cruelty, it is the only path to transformation. But there is one more step. Because focus, silence, and self-interest are not the end. They are the preparation. The true Machiavellian transformation comes when you strip away so much weakness, so much noise, that you don't just hold power, you become power. In Part 4, you will discover what it means to transform into something unreadable, untouchable, and unforgettable. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Niccolo Machiavelli. You've broken illusions, mastered time, and embraced ruthless self-interest. But Machiavelli's philosophy doesn't stop at survival. It points towards something darker, sharper, and far more powerful. You must not just control power, you must become power itself. This is the stage where most men fail. They dabble in strategy, they flirt with discipline, they play with silence, but they never fully commit. They never sharpen themselves into something unrecognizable. They never reach the level where their very presence is a weapon. You're not here to dabble, you're here to transform. From reacting to commanding. Most men live like leaves in the wind, blown around by other people's opinions, tethered to emotional reactions, forever explaining themselves. They think being good or likable will protect them. It doesn't. It enslaves them. The Machiavellian man shifts from reaction to command. He doesn't chase approval. He doesn't explain his moves. He doesn't even flinch when insulted. Why? Because the moment you react, you reveal your position. But when you remain unreadable, when you withhold your emotions, you force everyone else to adjust to you. You stop living in response. You start living in command. That's when you no longer have power. You are power. Silence as a weapon. We've already seen how silence is protection, but in its highest form, silence is not just defense, it is offense. Insult a reactive man, and he fires back. Insult a powerful man, and he smiles coldly, or worse, he says nothing. That silence makes the aggressor spiral. They start wondering, did I go too far? What is he planning? What does he know? Silence destabilizes. It creates pressure in the room. It forces people to reveal themselves because most men can't stand mystery. They start filling the air with noise, exposing their fears and motives. Meanwhile, you remain the mirror they cannot decode. This is psychological violence, and it's far deadlier than shouting. Discipline as identity. At this stage, discipline is no longer about tasks or habits. It's about identity. Anyone can pretend for a week. Anyone can train for a month. But when discipline is woven into your every action, when it defines your posture, your words, your silence, then it becomes who you are. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must be both the lion and the fox. Strength without cunning is predictable. Cunning without strength is fragile. But when you fuse the two, you become unstoppable. The man who embodies discipline becomes both lion and fox. He doesn't have to talk about control. He radiates it. People feel it before he even speaks. Mystery as armor power thrives on mystery. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to manipulate. The more transparent you are, the easier you are to exploit. But the mysterious man, he becomes untouchable. Machiavelli warned rulers to appear merciful, faithful, and sincere while being capable of the opposite. Why? Because appearances pacify the masses while mystery keeps rivals unsettled. If people can't map you, they can't control you. If they can't predict you, they can't preempt you. Mystery forces them to waste their energy guessing while you conserve. Yours for decisive strikes. Predictable men are forgettable. Mysterious men are unforgettable. Beyond revenge. Here's where the weak often get stuck. Revenge. They think power means proving people wrong. They think transformation means throwing it in the faces of those who doubted them. But revenge is still reactive. It ties you to the very people you should have left behind. Machiavelli understood this. The truly powerful don't waste time settling scores. Why? Because revenge gives your enemies significance. To rise beyond them is the ultimate revenge. To no longer acknowledge them at all is the final victory. When you reach this stage, you don't burn time chasing validation. You don't even care to be recognized. You move so far ahead that those behind you vanish in the fog of irrelevance. Isolation as evolution. This transformation requires isolation, not loneliness. Isolation. Loneliness is weakness. It's craving company. Isolation is strength. It's forging yourself in silence. Machiavelli himself experienced this. Exiled from Florence, stripped of status, he retreated into isolation. And in that silence he wrote The Prince, a doctrine so sharp it still shapes politics centuries later. His exile didn't weaken him, it weaponized him. That's what isolation does. It starves distractions, it kills excuses, it strips away dependency, and what remains is steel. If you cannot sit alone in silence and sharpen yourself, you cannot become untouchable. The warning. But be warned, the world will not clap as you rise. It will fight to pull you back. The enemy no longer arrives with swords or armies. The enemy arrives with notifications, empty conversations, false friendships, and distractions disguised as harmless. If you are not vigilant, you will soften, you will drift, you will lose the edge you fought to sharpen. That's why Machiavelli called focus the coldest law of power. It requires vigilance every single day. One lapse, and the world reclaims you. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Niccolo Machiavelli. We have dismantled illusions. We have confronted time. We have sharpened silence, embraced self-interest, and stepped into mystery. But now we arrive at the last transformation, the moment where all of Machiavelli's laws converge. This is where you stop trying to hold power and start living as power, where you stop being a man with strategies and become a man who is the strategy, where you no longer need to prove, to explain, or to defend, because your very existence is a weapon. This is the final form, becoming the weapon. Most men remain scattered forever. They chase distraction, drown in emotion, beg for recognition. They are too soft, too predictable, too easily broken. But the weaponized man, he is different. He doesn't seek attention. He doesn't waste energy defending himself. He doesn't need applause or explanation. Like a sword, his power comes not from addition, but from subtraction. Steel becomes sharp only when everything unnecessary is cut away. The same is true of you. Cut away the weakness, cut away the noise, cut away the need to be understood. What remains is lethal. You don't just have focus, you are focus. You don't just wield silence, you are silence. You don't just practice detachment, you are untouchable. This is the moment you become more than a man, you become a force. The death of the old self-transformation requires burial. The old version of you, the apologizer, the helper, the predictable man, must die. And when people ask, "What happened to you?" your answer is simple. That man died when I realized nobody cared unless I was useful. Do not mourn him. That version of you was a slave. That version begged for permission, sought validation, and explained himself endlessly. The new version is reborn in silence, ruthless, clear, sharp. Their fear of your transformation is proof that it's real. Their discomfort is the echo of your growth. You don't owe them the old you. You owe yourself the weaponized you. Freedom redefined. Most people think freedom is doing whatever they want. That's childish. Real freedom is immunity. Immunity from manipulation. Immunity from distraction. Immunity from emotional chains. When you reach this stage, you no longer beg for freedom. You are freedom. No one owns your focus. No one dictates your emotions. No one controls your hours. They will call you selfish. They will call you arrogant. They will call you cold. Let them. These are the labels of the powerless trying to describe what they cannot touch. Machiavelli knew that power doesn't need to be understood. It only needs to move. The gravity effect. When you become the weapon, the world bends around you. You've seen it. The man who enters a room and the atmosphere changes. He doesn't force it. He doesn't beg for it. He doesn't perform. He simply exists, and people adjust themselves. That's gravity. Your focus pulls people into your orbit. Your silence unsettles manipulators. Your scarcity frustrates the needy, and your detachment terrifies the weak. The average man begs for space. The weaponized man owns it. Beyond revenge, beyond recognition. The final form means leaving behind shallow motives. Revenge is for men still tied to their enemies. Recognition is for men still tethered to the crowd. You are beyond both. Your only mission now is your empire. Your only focus is the man you are becoming. Your only concern is sharpening yourself into something untouchable. Machiavelli wrote that men who live by virtue alone will be destroyed by those who exploit it. But once you rise here, you are beyond virtue and vice, beyond good and evil. You move only by strategy. You exist only in clarity. That is what makes you unstoppable. Isolation as the forge. This level demands isolation, not loneliness. Isolation. Loneliness craves company. Isolation craves focus. Machiavelli himself proved this. When exiled, when stripped of power, he didn't collapse. He wrote The Prince, a book so dangerous it still influences leaders centuries later. His silence created immortality. Your isolation is the same. It is not punishment. It is training. It is the forge where all softness burns away and only steel remains. The final command. So here is your last command. Disappear into your mission. Guard your focus like it is your crown, because it is. Engineer your environment until it whispers strength. Kill the old identity without apology. Eliminate every distraction, no matter how small, because the enemy doesn't come with a blade anymore. The enemy comes with a notification, a trivial conversation, a false friendship, and if you are not alert, you will slip back into weakness. Focus is your fortress. Self-interest is your shield. Silence is your sword. And discipline is your armor. With these, you do not just survive, you conquer. Closing of Part 5. Now you understand Machiavelli's coldest law of power. Focus solely on yourself. Not for a week, not as a trend, but as a doctrine to live by. Because the moment you stop explaining, stop chasing, stop scattering yourself, you become something untouchable, something unreadable, something unforgettable. You don't need recognition. You don't need revenge. You don't need approval. You are the weapon. And this is the creed of ruthless psychology, to see the world not as we wish it to be, but as it truly is, to cut through weakness, expose illusions, and sharpen ourselves into power. So I'll leave you with this. Do you think Machiavelli was right, or was he too ruthless? Comment your answer below, and if you're ready to rise above distraction, manipulation, and weakness, subscribe now. Join this community of those who refuse to bend. Hit the bell so you never miss what the weak will never hear, because the more you focus on yourself, the more the world bends to you.